This video tutorial is compatible with Photoshop CC and Photoshop CS6. A very popular post-production technique in recent years has been something called HDR toning, or faux HDR. Inside of Photoshop we can create this by first duplicating the file, rather than duplicating the layer. Okay, we can come to the image menu and then choose duplicate. I'll just accept the default name and select OK. Now in order to create the HDR toning, we're going to return to the image menu, adjustments, and select HDR toning. Now inside of the HDR toning dialog, we've got the preset set to its default, and most of the effect that you're probably looking for is going to be found by raising the detail slider, and I'll raise this to a value perhaps over 100, and you'll see this expand the localized contrast and accentuate the detail inside of this image. Actually, I'm not a big fan of the increase in color saturation with this technique, so I'm going to wind that saturation slider back to a negative value, maybe as much as -20 or so. Okay, we can fine-tune the image using either a tone curve, which we can expand at the bottom of the dialog here, or by playing with the shadows and highlight sliders. Now we can sort of create more of a softer modeling of light, even though we've got accentuated detail, by raising the radius slider. If I raise this to a value over 100 pixels, you'll see that we're getting a softer light source, even though we've got this accentuated detail, and this is actually something that I do prefer rather than having it way too crunchy. Okay, so with that higher radius value and the detail slider raised, I'm going to select OK. Okay, now we've applied this, I only want to apply the actual effect in localized areas, or reduce the effect over the face. We've got a little bit of a highlight that's blowing out on the nose here, and I want to create or restore a bit of the fine detail and tonality from the previous version. So I'm just going to pull this tab off, and then we're going to drag the background layer into the original file. I'll just hold down the Shift key as I let go of the mouse button in order to center those two images. Okay, now we're going to add a layer mask. Okay, and now I can start shielding some of this HDR toning from the original image. So to do that, we'll select the brush tool, and we'll select the default colors, and then press the X key so that black is my foreground color. Now I've got an opacity of 50% set in the options bar, and I'm working with the brush hardness set to 0%, and I'll click in the options bar once again to collapse that panel, and I'll just wipe or brush over the face a few times just to remove some of that crunchy toning, perhaps also from the neck and chest here, like so. I'll just reduce the size of the brush and pull that extra tonality back in by brushing a couple of times over the nose, and that restores the tonality to this area of the image. And now I've got the best of both worlds. I've got some subtle tone where I require it, and I've got the expanded crunchy dramatic detail from the HDR toning.